Hello students, how are you? Hope you all must be fine. Now today the poetry what we are going to start, that is a photograph. What is written by Shirley Tolson. If we first talk about Shirley Tolson, then she was a British poet and she was born on 20th May 1924. She had a huge passion on writing. She wrote many stories and poems, and she was dead at the age of 94. Now, if we talk about this poetry, a photograph, so this poetry exactly is showing a nostalgic feeling of a daughter. Nostalgic feeling means when a daughter is having a feeling of happiness and sadness. These both the feelings are coming in her mind on seeing the photograph of her mother. And how exactly she is describing the photograph. Now we will learn or we will see through the poetry. So now let's start the poetry. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. So, in these lines, the poet wants to say that her mother and her two cousins, means mother's cousins, they went for paddling. Paddling means for boating or for water games at the sea. And her mother, she is the eldest one among them. So that's why what is happening? The two young girls, they are holding her mother hands. And her mother is approx of 12 years old. It means now she is telling that when this photograph was taken, so that time her mother was approx 12 year or so, maybe 13. All three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera, a sweet face. And the all three girls, they are standing like in the water and they are smiling. And opposite them, their uncle is standing and taking their photograph. And the girls, they are smiling through the hair. It means the hair are falling at their face. My mother's, that was before I was born. And she remembers that this photograph exactly is of that time when even she was not born. And the sea, which appears to have changed less. And now she compares that the sea exactly what she is seeing right now and the sea what now she sees in the picture, they are almost same. There are very less changes in the sea. Washed, they are terribly transient feet. But the time has washed their terribly transient feet. Means transient means a thing or anybody lasting for a short period of time. Means now she is talking about that a human being, that now mother, she is dead. It means the human being, they are mortal, and the sea, that is immortal. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. Maybe that when after 20 or 30 years her mother must have seen this photograph, then she also must have laughed on seeing that photograph. Why? Because the way exactly her mother, means poet's grandmother, dressed them up for going for this sea holiday. and the way exactly they were dressed up, she must have laughed, means how exactly they were looking all same, was her past. And now that photograph was of her mother's past, mine in her laughter. And now the poet is saying that even her also, for her also, it was laugh, like it was past. And now she is also laughing on seeing that photograph. Both Rai with that labored ease of loss. But both Rai means experiencing again both disappointment and amusement. So what is happening? That now at this time, and at that time also, when mother was watching that photograph with Dolly and Betty, she also must be thinking the same as now this time the poet is thinking, that this loss now can never be recovered. Now she's been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived. And now she is saying that her mother, she's like been dead. She also has passed away long back. And of this circumstance, there is nothing to say at all. It's silence and silence. And the poet says that when now she is just living in these circumstances, so she hasn't got the words to explain that. And the thing, what she wants to observe or what she wants to keep, that is silence. She now does not want to say anything. So if we talk about the summary of this poetry, the poet recalls the memory of her mother, gazing at the frame, means where the photograph of her mom along with cousins Betty and Dolly in their preteens, means when they were quite young. The photo refers to one of their visits to the sea beach. At that time, the mother's face had the sweetness of a young girl. And now she wants to say that this is the photograph of that time when her mother was also a quite young girl. Transient feet refers to the transience of life, means it is for the human life that is mortal, means one day everybody has to die. She recalls how mom had looked at the photograph 20-30 years later. She also must have looked at the photograph and laughed at the attires. Attire means dresses, clothes that she and her cousins were wearing. And she also must have laughed on seeing that photograph, that how they were dressed up by their mothers. The sea holiday was a thing of past for her. And that sea holiday was a past thing for her mother. Her smiling face had become a thing of the past for the poet, just as the mother's childhood had been for her. As mother's childhood is a past for her now. Both of them, mom and the poet, now move on the despite of the losses. Now she has been dead for about 12 years. The void in the life of the poet is silence and gloom that she feels. And after her mother's death, now what she feels, that is only gloomy. She feels sad. And that's why now she wants to be silent. So just go once again through the poetry, you will better understand it. Thank you. Have a nice time.